Hello and welcome to this new session of EG classes. In this segment of EG classes, we will talk about the Drug and Clinical Trial Rule 2019. Now recently Union Health Minister has notified the Drug and Clinical Trial Rule 2019 with aim to promote clinical research in the country. Now it is important to understand that what is clinical research or clinical trial means. Now generally new drugs are not given to the public as soon as they are made. They need to be studied about their impact on the human health, and it is for that matter that clinical trial comes into existence. Now this clinical trials helps in understanding that how a certain drug is impacting a health of a people and how it is safe for consumption by a people. So these clinical trials is very important in the context of using any drugs authorized by the DCGI. Now this DCGI, that is the Drug Controller General of India, is the apex body in understanding that how a certain drug is impacting in our country and to understanding that how the drug supply is happening in our country. Now moving further in this segment, we will discuss a question, and in the backdrop of it we will discuss the whole analysis of this new drug rule. Now for today the question is, discuss the new features of the clinical trial regulations of India 2019, full stop. Discuss the ethical issues involved in the clinical trial uses in India. Now we will jump on to our next topic of our discussion, and we will understand that what is this new drug and trial rule 2019. Now here the first component that is being included in this rule of 2019 is the speedy processing. Now under this, a newer component of drug that is being manufactured in our country has been reduced to the time limit of 30 days for the approval, and those drugs that are manufactured outside the territory of our country will have the maximum time limit of approval is 90 days, and in case if there is no approach being made to the DCGI, that is the Drug Controller General of India, the application will be deemed to be passed. Now apart from this, there is also a mention of provision of regulations to ensure patient safety. Now under this component, those persons who are being enlisted for a clinical trial, if certain mishappening happens to them, there is also a mention of compensation to these persons. If there is a death or certain disability happen to these patients, under these circumstances certain compensation can be made according to this provision, and this compensation will be decided by the Drug Controller General. And there is also a mention of ethics committee who will also review the trial. Now apart from this, now the newer component that is being added in this trial is the new market that is being opened for other countries who can supply the drugs in our country. Now under this component, DCGI has waived off the clinical trial for the drugs approved in the countries and marketed in the countries in such as European Union, UK, Australia, Japan and many other such countries as mentioned by the DCGI. Now this rule also waive up the requirement of local clinical trial if the drug is being approved and marketed in certain countries as being specified by the DCGI. Now we will move further in this segment and we will discuss the very important component of our discussion, that is we will discuss now that what are the ethical issues that being involved in this new clinical trial rule 2019, and especially in that context that what are the ethical issues that are being reviewed by the different socialists and political scientists that is being involved. Now drug companies are drawn to India for many years. The very reason responsible for this is the availability of patients, and there is a low cost and friendly drug control system in our country, and along with it there is also a competent workforce present in our country. Now at present we have both good news as well as bad news. Now talking about the good news first is that this clinical trial market is generating a huge money for India. Now the bad news is lack of regulation of private trials and uneven proper ethics committee is generating a huge amount of stress for our country and the people of our country. Now the larger context of clinical trial in our country is the poverty and the absence of affordable health care system in our country. Now, patients of both private sector as well as government sector are in desperate need of affordable health care system in our country. Now, in most cases, as being reviewed and surveyed, that these medical expenses are the major cause of concern that leads a person or a family to a vicious cycle of poverty. Now, under these circumstances, this clinical trial rule projection by the government is certain cause of concern also, as there is a mismatch between the affordable health care system in our country, as I have discussed. Now, this new rule of clinical trial is representing a rosy picture with a different regulations and the protection of patients, but we should not forget that even a prototype equipment, that is the case of being Johnson & Johnson, the hip replacement was a blunder in our regulation system that articulate that how a weak regulation system in our country. So this was all about the whole analysis of the new regulation rule of clinical trial rule 2019. So with this is the end of video. Till we meet in next time. Thank you and God bless to all of you.